There I was, organizing my bookshelves, and I realized, and you know this if you watch my reorganizing bookshelf video I just posted, that I realized my nonfiction section is the biggest growing section, and it kind of snuck up on me. This year I have read more nonfiction than I think I have ever read. Seriously. I don't know how it happened. For a long time I was not really interested in that genre, but I guess somehow, magically, I just fell into it. I'm not upset about it either. As I was reorganizing and putting stuff together, I realized I had some books I hadn't really talked to you about in a while. I'm sure you're going to recognize a few of them, but there's some of them that are just good nonfiction that I decided I wanted to share with you in a little nonfiction video. So here we are. So that is what we're going to get into right now. Let's do it. First one I want to share with you is Dead Mountain. Now, I do have the book, but I can't show it to you because my mom just came to visit and she took it because I've been talking to her about it forever and she decided now is the time. This may be a nonfiction, but I think it's a great way to break into nonfiction in the sense that it is kind of like a real life mystery thriller where you're just like, what the hell is going on? This book is about one of those strange, unsolved cases in the world where something really weird happened and nobody could really explain it. In Russia in the 1950s, a group of students went out together to finish their hiking qualifications. Now, these were advanced hikers, and when I say hiking, it's not like, casual hiking. This is like out there in it hiking, something that apparently Russia really encouraged in that time period. So you have all these kids together, and they are in like a cold, cold climate. They're on a mountain, it's snowy. Just imagine it being like really dangerous temperatures if you don't know what you're doing. Like you can die really quickly. So these kids go up to this place called Dead Mountain and they pitch their tent. Now time goes by and these kids never come back down. So people go up to see what the heck happened. And when they get there, the circumstances are extremely strange. As they walk up to the tent and they look inside, there is a little stove as if they were just about to make hot chocolate. All of their boots are lined up against the walls, and in one corner of the tent there is a rip in the fabric, as if someone was either trying to get in or out. And the kids nor their bodies are nowhere to be found. So basically this search ensues, and there are some really strange things about the bodies themselves, the way they're discovered, like the state of decay is very strange. And so people have basically been debating what the heck happened on Dead Mountain all those decades ago, and still nobody knows. So this is this author's like deep dive into this, and it also is a little bit about Russia as a culture, especially during that time period. And it's the first book that really got me interested in Russia and Russian culture and Russian history, which is still one of my favorite things because they just have such an insane history. Like so much happened in Russia, and the people I find very interesting. So in this book, there's diary entries from these kids, there's photos of them, like journal entries of their hiking, there's stuff about the trip itself, and then there's stuff from the author who is trying to investigate this and his own experience with Russian culture. I love this nonfiction. It's really a blast to read. It's like insightful and beautiful and sad and haunting and thrilling. It's just a lot of stuff, and I loved it, and I hope that somebody watching this video will end up reading it. I want to continue this adventure theme with two more books, which is Into the Wild, which I'm sure you've heard of, but this is me reminding you to read it if you haven't yet. And this is the story of a younger man. There's also a movie made, by the way, if you wanted to do like a book and then watch the movie sort of thing. But a young man who basically just left home for the wilderness and basically just decided he was going to become self-sufficient in nature, or like one with nature. Now, unfortunately, this young man did pass away in the wilderness, and his story is something that I think interests people because everybody has this innate interest in like escapism. People like to think about leaving their lives, which is interesting. It's an interesting like human condition. So I think people equal parts admire his courage for doing so, and then they're also just shocked at what was really like stupidity or like youthful ignorance in a lot of ways. When I was reading it, I couldn't decide if this young man was like the bravest person I'd ever heard of or the stupidest. It's a book about this kid's mindset. It's a book about that mindset overall and throughout history. And it's really about what happened to this young man. So it's a really interesting story. It's a sad one. And there's some revelations about the human condition. Great book, really little one too. So don't like feel intimidated by it. Sometimes when I first started nonfiction, I'd be intimidated by the big ones. So this is a good one. It's an adventure novel, survival novel kind of, and just a really good read. One more on the adventure circuit is Into Thin Air by the same author as Into the Wild. This one is about climbing Everest, and I just really like this guy's writing style. It's kind of journalistic, so it's efficient, but he doesn't leave anything out. It's like also emotional. There are some things in here about that mountain and about like the business of climbing it and how that has changed over the years, and also just this guy's experience doing it, climbing it. So really interesting and really good writing style if you're at all interested in adventure in that sort of sense. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that one in here because I still really like it and I still think about it sometimes. This one is like a history, thrilling, murder mystery, true crime nonfiction. So it's really fun if you like those fiction genres. This is something that like actually happened, and it's really, really fun to read and experience. It is The Last Pirate of New York, A Ghost Ship, A Killer, and the Birth of a Gangster Nation. You might remember me talking about this in a reading wrap-up. I freaking loved it. I thought it was so fun, and I really hope that someone will read it, and I just love it. It's about this crazy guy who basically tried to get away with this horrendous crime and how he failed to do so, and how him failing that crime led to the discovery of his responsibility for lots of other crimes. It talks about New York at the time of this happening, which was fascinating in and of itself, like just the way the city was laid out and how it's changed now. He compares these old trails and what used to be there to what's there now. So it's really like you feel like you're almost into that world. It's almost fantasy in a way where you just can't believe that it was really like that at one point. So really great one. Now I want to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to go into like a sort of memoir area for 3 books, and that'll be it for this nonfiction video. I might make more, let me know. This one is called Ghost Boy, The Miraculous Escape of a Misdiagnosed Boy Trapped Inside His Own Body. This book is so good, and it's one of those books I cannot believe it does not have the hype I think it deserves, because I still think about it. I loved it. I loved his story. I mean, I just really admire like the author of this, and just the way he wrote was beautiful and so honest and so human. Really, really good. So let me set this up for you. In January of 1988, Martin, the author, came home from school complaining of a sore throat, and he basically never went back. That sore throat turned into a quick deterioration of his body and seemingly his mind, until he was essentially just this hollow shell. Like his body was there, but it was like the lights weren't on. A really terrifying thing for his parents. I mean, nobody knew how to really help him, and where he ended up was just locked in. I think it's called locked in syndrome. What's really interesting about Martin's experience was that he wasn't there. Like he really wasn't there. He has like no recollection of a long period of time. But then at some point, it was like his mind started to wake up. And he was there. He was there. He was cognizant. He was completely aware of what was going on. He understood. He was very intelligent. He was still himself, but he was inside a body that he didn't recognize. And what's even scarier is that no one knew. No one knew that he was in there. You know what I mean? So this is about Martin's journey through that entire experience of slowly finding a way to communicate with his family that, hey, I'm in here. And I understand, and I know everything that's going on around me. Now, it's interesting in itself because when you have a person with those sort of needs, you need a plan for their care. So because Martin had been in this non-responsive state for so long, he was witness to a lot of things about like his family, some of his caregivers, like some really terrifying things, some really beautiful things, and he really handles it with such grace. And this is his journey sort of back to the surface. It's a story of how he fell in love and how he met his wife, and they are the cutest ever. And I just fell in love with his story. It was really beautiful. This is one of those books I just don't get why more people haven't heard of it or haven't read it. So really fantastic, beautiful, just an incredible story, and just like an incredible mind, incredible person. So definitely check this out. I'm speechless, really. I'm still speechless about it. Really, really good book. Ghost Boy by Martin Pistorius. Continuing the memoir vibes, we have The Way Through the Woods, which I just recently read, and it is about a woman whose husband suddenly passed away and how she found her way through grief by studying and learning about mushrooms and becoming like a mushroom person. And how nature and just like the discovery of these unique kinds of mushrooms and going out foraging and hunting for them allowed her to reawaken something in her soul and feel like she was moving forward and able to embrace her life again in a different way and start a new chapter. I really liked this translation. I really liked how it was about grief in a super honest way. I think that's something that's hard for us to talk about, and that's something that we can turn to books to really understand and be able to express ourselves and find that commonality with our fellow man about what grief can be like. She was really honest about it. She was honest about some of her reactions, like right after and long afterwards. I just thought she handled it really beautifully in her writing, and she balanced it with this sort of nature aspect of the foraging and the mushroom community. So it's sort of a twofold book, and I really, really enjoyed it. Lastly, I have Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed, who is the author of Wild, by the way. Now, this is a book I probably would never have picked up on my own, but when I did, I was so glad that I did, and I was just sort of glad that I stumbled across it. It was a fantastic book. You can see that I have things tabbed, which I do not do often. But this book is just really, really powerful. Cheryl Strayed used to be Dear Sugar, which was an advice column. And this book is a compilation of some of the letters and requests that they received and her response to them. And the thing about it is that it's just so hauntingly human. I always recommend this to people who are going through something, whether it's something painful or you just kind of like feel like you need to reset your life, or you just need to feel understood as a person. If you're going through something, pick up this book because it makes you realize that, you know, you're not alone, and it just puts things in perspective for you, and it also allows you to like put yourself in their place and feel that grief for them and for yourself. It's a powerful thing. So incredibly beautiful. I tried to read this. The first one is actually like a little bit on like a mother-daughter love. And when I read it, I tried to like read it out loud to my husband, and I couldn't get through it without crying. So it's just really, really powerful. I kind of want to read it again now that I'm talking to you about it, but my TBR is probably just heard that, and now is it staring daggers at me? It is, isn't it? So that is one I totally recommend, and I think it's something like everyone should read once in their life. Like maybe don't read it now, but maybe get it and put it on your shelf, and the next time you're just like feeling something, or you just, I don't know, are grieving something in your life, whether it doesn't have to be death, but whenever you're like in transition in your life, maybe pick it up because you might find some guidance and some kind of companionship in there, and it'll just make you feel human. You know, it's just good. Just a good book. So those are just, what is that? 7 of nonfiction books from my shelves, which are ever growing, and I have more on my TBR. I think it's a genre I've really come around to in an awesome way. It's something I crave now, which is really interesting. If you had asked me that like 2 years ago, I would have said probably no way. But now I'm really into it, and I wanted to share it with you and share these great ones with you. And if you want me to do more like this, I actually have an idea for like nonfiction that maybe we can do in the future. So let me know if you're interested in that. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a quick thumbs up before you hop off. Drop me a comment below. And if you're new here and you like all things bookish, then I'm your girl. So go ahead, press that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.